Hey, welcome back to Account Management Secrets. I'm here today with someone that I've been able to get to know through AMplify and actually even before AMplify, a really tremendous account management leader, Kristy Devantier from Worker Bee TV. And we're going to talk about all the things that she has been learning and implementing with her team at Worker Bee. It's been really interesting to see how she has taken a lot of the concepts from AMplify, for example, and literally put them to work like right away, very quickly. I think it's really awesome. If you're an account manager, you already know this. You're the one keeping the business running. You own the client relationships, drive the revenue, and solve the tough problems for your customers. But here's the challenge. Most companies don't give account managers the training or recognition they deserve. That's what you'll get here on the Account Management Secrets podcast. I'm Alex Raymond, and after working with thousands of account managers, I know what separates the best from the rest. In this show, we cover exactly what you need to succeed, handling tough client conversations, driving renewals and upsells with confidence, and proving your value every single day. There's no fluff, no outdated sales tactics, just real practical strategies you can use right now to grow your accounts and build a successful career. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, hit subscribe and let's get into it. Kristy, welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks, Alex. I'm happy to be here.
Now, we were just talking, I would love for people to hear the origin of your last name. It's really cool.
Sure, yeah. So my husband's family is from Denmark, and the story they have about the name is that it was originally a French person who was in the forest, and he rescued a noblewoman, and they bestowed this name Devantier on this person, and all of the Devantiers that live in the world are a descendant of this person. So if there's any Devantiers out there listening, hello.
Okay, so I would have thought it could, because you live in Canada, I thought it could have been from Quebec or France or something like that. So it's from France, but just with that really cool, interesting story.
Yes, exactly. So
Nice.
yes, Danish as far as I know, but came from French people.
Awesome. Well, great to have you here with us on Account Management Secrets. I met you about 16 months ago at the CamCon event in Boulder, Colorado, and you've been a member of AMplify since day one. And it strikes me that you're someone who loves to learn, who is really open to new ideas, and you also like to implement them quickly. And I've seen, from a bit of a distance, but I've seen the things that you've done with your team within the company. As far as I could tell, it's also paying off, right? I've also seen you get promoted to being a team lead, and then more recently get promoted to be the managing director of a whole chunk of the business over there. Walk us through a little bit, kind of how you have been changing your approach to account management, where you start, basically like where you started, where you are now, and how you have been evolving your thinking about the role of account management.
Yeah, absolutely. So I came across the materials that first kind of led me to the conference in Boulder when I was looking at our strategic review meeting process. And we called them quarterly review meetings at that time, and was really looking to refresh what we were doing. My team found the meetings incredibly challenging. They were always really stressed out about having to run a QBR meeting. I understood that sentiment. I remembered what it was like when I first started in account management, and my boss was like, okay, time to run a quarterly review meeting. And I was like, oh, okay, what does that look like? So I wanted to put more structure in place, have a process for doing that. And when I started to research materials for doing it, I came across you and the webinars you were running. So that was kind of where I got started with adding structure and implementing changes in my team. That was really the first major thing I did, was put in that structured process around review meetings. We renamed them strategic review meetings. We made an analysis of our clients and decided who we should be sitting with 4 times a year, who it made sense to sit with more like 2 times a year or once a year, and really started to more thoughtfully approach how we were spending that time with them.
So QBRs was the sharp end of the stick,
Mm-hmm.
to use that analogy, and that was the pain point. Um, so let's back up, because this is a very common thing for people. account managers are told, go do a QBR, and they don't necessarily know where to start. They don't know how to do them. There's not a lot of examples out there. So where were you at that time? Like what did they look like then? And then you went through this process of renaming them, refocusing on them. It sounds like you did some client segmentation as well. So walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to me, it felt like our QBRs when I started were very pitch heavy. So often getting the client in the room and then talking to them about every single thing we could possibly be doing for them, like jumping around other client sites, showing them examples. And I saw this work really well sometimes. I did, but sometimes it didn't work as well. And it also felt hard to reproduce as somebody who didn't necessarily have that confidence or comfort just jumping on and pitching every single thing we could do, particularly when I was newer in my role. So what it's evolved to now is the process starts with kind of researching your client, where they are, understanding everything going on with them, and then thinking about what questions you can bring into that meeting that are going to help deepen the relationship with the client. Particularly looking backwards at why did they start working with us? How have we helped them get closer to where they wanted to be? And what can we do in the future to continue to show them value and be successful in our partnership? And the flip of the conversation being less about us and everything we can do and more into what the client needs, what they're experiencing, what their challenges are, has been really impactful, not only on, I think, how the client feels in that meeting with us, but also on my team's comfort with running that meeting. It feels for them, I think, a lot more comfortable to show up to the meeting and be there as a resource to the client and be listening to their challenges instead of coming in and feeling like they need to present a sales pitch.
Okay, cool. And when you were going through that, what are the questions or the themes that you wound up focusing on? So you were saying, these feel like too much like a sales meeting. We show up and just talk, and present and pitch our next idea or our next thing to this client. And then you said you switched to question levels. So how did you orient those? How did you decide which ones were best to run with? Because we've all heard the advice, like ask more questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious what that actually meant for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think our approach is always to sort of start the meeting with, okay, we presented an agenda to you. We all seem to be aligned on the agenda, but is there anything burning on your side that you want to talk about before we jump into our agenda? Because sometimes, that client has that like thing in their mind that they're desperate to talk about, and they're not going to listen to anything you say until they've told you about this issue they've encountered or some problem they've been having that they want to get off their chest. So we always start there, but then we want to dive more deeply into feedback of how their experience with us has been. And that's the place where we always really like to start the meeting. How is it going from your perspective? So that we can, level set right away. If things aren't going well, that's going to change the way the meeting goes. If things are going well, then we can dive into where we've had some successes, the projects we've completed, the projects that are still ongoing. And then moving on from that kind of like tactical warm up beginning of the meeting, that's when we would dive into sort of deeper questions around, okay, we understand what we've completed so far, when we know what your goals were, what's changed for you this quarter, what are your top priorities. Sometimes we'll ask them questions about what's really challenging them or what they're struggling with in their team. And a challenge for sure has been getting the client to answer these questions from like the broader context of their business and not just answer the questions that relate to our team. Oh yeah, we launched an LMS with you. That was a huge project. It's going pretty well. We just want to kind of get comfortable using the LMS and get them to talk more broadly about what's going on in their department as a whole. What's their board focusing on? What are their leaders asking from them right now? And that's taken some practice to, try to unlock those conversations and to sort of teach our clients that that's what we want to know. And that's how we can more broadly understand what's going on in their world and bring the right recommendations for them.
Because the clients need coaching on this, right? So your team needs coaching on how to run a great quarterly business review, your clients need coaching on it as well, because they probably are coming in with a certain lens. They just assume, okay, worker B is in this box, this is what you do, and you're trying to break that open so that you can have a bigger conversation. And so you do have to coach them through that. What did you do there?
I think just being consistent in our approach. So, if the client sometimes was giving us those sort of quick answers, the brush off kind of answers, maybe before the next meeting, we would email them further in advance of the meeting to say, hey, this meeting, we really want to talk about your goals. We know you had a board meeting recently. If you would bring to us what was discussed at the board meeting, what's top of mind for them, and just give us a quick overview of what actions they're going to take against those goals this year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever's relevant to that particular client. And I've found that approach can be helpful, but sometimes it does still take 2 or 3 meetings before they really embrace that approach and come prepared to share that information.
And you said the feedback was generally, has it been trending in the right direction? So people are getting more value out of these meetings for both the client and your team?
I think so, yes. We have quite a few clients who have commented on the value they get out of meeting with us, and that they always appreciate how prepared our team comes to the meeting, that we ask these questions of them and prompt them to share with us, to be thinking about things in that way. Sometimes we've asked questions about, okay, how has your marketing changed? We've seen perhaps a dip in the engagement that we'd previously been seeing with the materials we produce for you. What's changed on the marketing side? And the client is like, oh, that's a great question. I'll have to go ask my marketing team what's going on. So moments like that, I think, reflect that we are getting into sort of a deeper place with the client, where they're understanding that we're coming to the meeting looking to learn more about them and help them on a deeper level.
To what extent has this then led you to bigger opportunities with your client, to expansion, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know with some clients, just making sure you're having those touch points with them, it just immediately opens conversations and doors. We had a client who we hadn't had a review meeting with in maybe 18 months, just because they had other focuses. We had an ongoing project with them that they basically were like, when you complete the project, then we can have a review meeting. And so when we got back in front of them to have a conversation with them, they immediately started talking about project work that they wanted to bring to us. So that was just one small example of a way that we were able to do that. And then there's been other clients who, through asking these questions, we've come to understand, oh, they have, we provide both a media platform and an LMS, that they need an LMS. And an LMS is a big product that we provide in terms of like the customer lifetime value. That's kind of the biggest sale we could achieve. And there have been a couple of clients who have ended up with an LMS because they learned we had an LMS through the strategic review meeting process. We came to learn that they needed an LMS through that meeting process. So it's achieved some positive results from my team in that way.
Dynamite. Yeah. For the most part, your clients don't know the full breadth of what you do. And it's because everyone's busy. They haven't done all the research. They weren't involved in the sales process. They have not been to your website to look at your services page, right? Like basically no customer ever does that. Once they sign the dotted line, no one looks at your website. And so part of our job then is to uncover the need by asking really great questions. And it sounds like you have followed some of the philosophy of our friend Bob London, for example, who you both met at CamCon in person and who's also been a guest on this podcast. Like, he's really good at those questions that'll help like pop things open for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely loved his session at CamCon and his appearance on the podcast as well.
Nice. All right, tell us then about, so QBRs was the thing that was most important. And you said, hey, we need to get better at this. You then mentioned that you were essentially doing segmentation. So looking at your portfolio to say, who do we want to invest in to spend this much time? Because QBRs are effort, right? It takes a lot of work to prep and do the meeting and follow up and so on. And one of the mistakes that account management leaders make is assuming that all clients deserve a QBR. So all clients deserve a meeting every 90 days. And that can be really taxing on the team. And it's not necessarily a route to success here. I prefer that we have a good system for understanding where we want to be spending our time and energy. How did you go about that?
That's a good question. And I definitely think it's something that I need to do probably more work on in the future. But at an early stage, it was looking at the amount of spend the client was making with us, the suite of products that they have with us. We do kind of draw a line down our client list between clients that work with us for projects. So they come for video or podcast work, and then clients who have like an annual recurring revenue agreement. They have one of our software platforms, or they have like a monthly contract for services with us. So we might make videos and podcasts for them every month, and they receive an invoice for us every month for their service that's contracted over a year, 2 years, or 3 years. So project clients, we decided right away, the vast majority of them wouldn't be in that QBR mix. And because my team manages both project clients and ARR clients, and they might have, something like 20 clients on their roster that's mixed between those two things, that immediately made it easier to say, okay, like these 11 clients that you deal with, you don't even have to think about them for a review meeting. That doesn't mean we don't talk to them or we don't reach out to them or look for opportunities with them, but they don't need that full hour, that structured process. And then the ARR clients, all of them should be having at least one meeting, depending on, the size of what they do with us, but also how close they are to our ideal client profile potentially as well. Some of them we know are not looking to do more. We just know enough about them.
When you say one meeting, you mean one meeting per year?
Per year, yeah,
okay.
Per year. So some of them we put in that kind of one meeting a year box, either because there were just, they hadn't engaged, or we felt there just wasn't a lot of potential for growth within that client. And then the clients that we were looking at that were really engaged with us, they were using a couple of our products, using our services, and we knew there was a lot of potential there. Those are the clients we identified for 4 meetings a year. And then 2 meetings a year was sort of those clients who were in between. We also did ask clients who were in 4 meetings a year, would you like to continue meeting 4 times a year, or would you like to move to 2 meetings a year? And yes, we did have clients say, we really like these meetings. We'd like to meet 4 times a year, which we were okay with. Great. And then there were plenty of clients who were like, no, 2 meetings is perfect for us. We'd like to check in, but we don't need this 4 times a year. So.
And maybe it's too early to tell, but when you did that segmentation and you changed your QBR approach, and then you then put it through this filter of your ICP, your ideal customer profile as well. Presumably, when you do all this, you get a lot of visibility into the cohorts that you're creating within the company. What can you then discern around retention rates and expansion rates from these cohorts?
Well, I think the clients that are more invested in your products and services and using more of them are typically easier to retain. They've just got more going on, and they're getting more out. They're putting more in and they're getting more out. Particularly with our services, the more a client uses our platform, the more videos and podcasts they're posting, the more they're promoting those materials. That means they're engaging with their members. Their members are using our platform, and they're going to be seeing the results they want to achieve on their side. Their members are engaging, their members are renewing. So seeing that, those clients are getting the 4 QBRs a year or 4 strategic review meetings a year, and their renewal rates are typically higher than the ones that are potentially getting 1 meeting a year. And then that leads me to the question of, am I doing the right thing? Should I be paying more attention to those 1 meeting a year clients? And that's, I think, something I'm still challenged with, still puzzling through.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that data evolves, because my instinct is also the same. The ones who are putting the most in, one of the other ways to triangulate segmentation is commitment, right? So how committed is the customer? If they're very committed, chances are they're going to stick around and grow with you. If they're less committed, chances are that they aren't, or they're seeing the whole relationship as more transactional. Not that transactional customers all need to be fired, but they're going to behave in a different way. You already do that between the project clients and the ARR clients. So let me ask you about that. When you have a team of account managers that mix both the project-based client work and the annual subscription customers, Why mix them? Is it working? Are you going to keep doing this? Because, part of me in my head is like, well, why wouldn't you just have a team that just does the project clients and a team that just does the subscription clients?
Yeah, great question. So when I started at Workerbee TD, I was the only account manager. And probably 6 months, maybe 8 months into my tenure, we added a second account manager. And our title was account manager, but we were 95% project managers, apart from those occasional QBRs that we were joining or hosting and, puzzling our way through. And when I was sort of in my performance review, it was, oh, you're an excellent project manager, but are you really doing the account management side of your
Oh,
role?
okay. Uh-huh.
Um, and, I sat with that feedback. And what I brought back to my leader was, I don't feel like I have time. I am so caught up in project management and the day-to-day detail that it's really challenging to try to take a step back and do that strategic thinking for the clients. And I would like to hire account coordinators who could be more responsible for the day-to-day project tasks and free my time up. So that was the beginning of starting to grow the team. And our sort of thinking around how to do it perhaps wasn't perfect, but that is the level that we added, was the account coordinators who were doing more of like the administrative tasks, the day-to-day project management, the communication back and forth with the internal team to get everything pulled together, freeing up the people at the account management level to do more of the strategic thinking. But with the sort of flow of the business, it was never perfect lines. So an account manager could still take on project or account coordinator details that looked more project like. We always sort of expected people to wear multiple hats. And that has just continued over time. So we did at one point have an account coordinator who said, I don't want to become an account manager. I don't want to learn the software platform. I just want to focus on video work on the creative side of the business. And so that was actually made my life really easy, because anytime a project client came in, I just passed them to him and he took those on, and it was starting to divide more cleanly in that way that you described. But eventually he sort of changed his mind and said, you know what, I actually think I might be interested in account management. And I do think I want to learn more about the software platform and go down that other road now. So he is starting to take on those responsibilities and run strategic review meetings, and we've kept that door open for him. And that means sometimes project clients coming in, he doesn't have capacity to take them on, so I'm passing them to an account manager who's working with them. And it's a tricky problem, but what I can say about my account managers who also do the project work is that they are incredibly close to their clients. They know all of the detail, they know all of the players, they understand what's going on a day-to-day basis with that client, and they have very strong relationships. So that's one benefit I definitely see to the way that we have things structured right now, but it isn't perfect, and they're stretched very thin.
Thanks for sharing all that. I feel like there's kind of a religious war going on right now, but around this whole conversation of account managers and project managers. It came up in AMplify not that long ago. You were one of the people who started the conversation. It came up in the community, and I think it especially is something that comes up in, sort of professional services companies, right? So where what you're selling is humans and human powered stuff, then lo and behold, the lines really can blur between what's an account manager who's supposed to be growing the account and managing the contacts and that whole process, versus someone who's responsible for the delivery of our service and making sure that works and is lower risk and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know that there's a lot of clarity right now on where the line should be on who's doing what, and so on. And so you expressed very clearly like that we don't fully know right now, but like, where do you think this is going?
Yeah, it's tough, and it's something I'm thinking about on a daily basis. How can I structure my team better to make them more successful and make their jobs more enjoyable? And I'm incredibly lucky right now to have very capable people working alongside me who are straddling this. And honestly, Alex, they are also doing customer success. Like they also receive the tickets from the clients and manage the tickets from the software platform. That is their biggest pain point right now. And that is the thing I would most like to remove from their plates and pull out of my team. I think for the most part, they manage okay. The account managers have a bigger set of like recurring revenue clients and a smaller set of project clients right now. So they're able to manage what's on their plate for the most part, I think, very well. But the customer success and the tickets being thrown into that mix, that's a real challenge. That's my biggest pain point, my biggest headache, their biggest headache right now, and something I need to solve.
I can imagine. And look, burnout or the potential for burnout is a big deal with account management teams. So you've already said some of your people have portfolios of up to 20 accounts. So, and if I've got 20 accounts, that's already a big deal. If then I've got to decide who's a subscription account, who's a recurring account, where is this a twice a year account that for QBRs or a once a year account for QBRs, and do I have tickets and all this? Like, it's a lot. Like it's a lot that these people are doing. And so as a leader, I assume you've got to spend a lot of time like juggling through this, helping people to manage it, and also going to find resources to help them solve these problems, right?
Yes. Yeah. That the most important part of my job for me, of course, keeping clients, growing clients, that's what I'm responsible for. But it's supporting my team in doing that and helping them feel confident and feel like they have the right strategies to be able to do that. And that's a huge motivator for why I'm a part of AMplify, for why when I learn something new, I try to implement it in my team as quickly as possible, because having frameworks, having structure, having an understanding of how you're supposed to go about doing this job well, it just makes everybody's life a little bit easier. And that's a huge part of what motivates me to try new things and to try to learn as much as I can about how to do account management really well.
Yeah, I mean, these are real problems that you're facing here and that you're solving. How do you think about getting the support that you and your team need? So one of the things that we talk about a lot in AMplify, or just kind of general out there, we talk about account managers are terrible at tooting their own horn. I call them the unsung heroes because they do all this like heroic work and never get any credit or recognition for it. So we know this is a big issue, but there's times when you have to go to the C-suite. You've got to go to the higher ups and say, look, we need resources. We need to hire people, or we need money for training, or we need some tool, or whatever thing we need to get unblocked. How have you gone about building that internal support for the account management function?
Yeah, it's a good question and definitely a true challenge to try to make sure. For me, it's the president of the company who I deal with most often and whose support I need and buy-in that I need. And so one of the things I did was to put together meetings where he would meet with my team and the sales team, and we would give him an update on our accounts and talk through challenges and share information about what we were doing. And part of what motivated me to put those meetings in place was really to make sure he understood what my team was doing, what actions we were taking, how we were confronting challenges and identifying risks within our accounts, so that he knew that was happening. And he could hear directly from the account managers who were taking the actions what they were doing. And through the time I spent in AMplify, I've made a lot of changes to the structure of that meeting. Before, it was kind of a random, everybody show up and pick an account or two to talk about. And, sales had a lot of influence over what we were talking about within the meeting or what direction things went in. And now we've picked an account that we'll talk about at that meeting, and we present the account plan. I also didn't have account plans before I joined AMplify. I didn't even know what that was supposed to look like. So that's been a huge value add for me. And the feedback from both like our marketing and sales director and the president of the company have been really positive. We've had 2 of these account plan meetings in the new structure now. And everybody was like, okay, this is really helpful. Now we understand who this client is, what you're doing next, how we can help, what challenges you have. So for me, that's been a huge benefit, and something that I look forward to seeing over the coming months and years, how that really has an impact on our business and my team.
Well, so the point that I get from that is uh, a lot of account management leaders simply don't run the right meetings here, right? So part of the role is you have to be an internal evangelist for the clients. You also have to be an internal evangelist for your team and for your function. And a lot of the disconnect is that we're just not close enough to the C-suite, or we're not close enough to the leaders, and we assume that they know what we're doing all day, and they don't. And what I just heard you say was, we have these meetings, and instead of just kind of haphazardly picking an account here or there, we have an account, which you haven't told us how you choose it, but I want to ask you about that. So you have an account, and you then bring some science to how you talk about it and present it, which does several things. First is it allows your president to be able to see, oh, this is what the team's been working on over the last month or a few weeks. And then it allows them to get unvarnished feedback about the customer. So here's the customer challenge, or here's the customer opportunity, or here's what's going on. And third, it then allows them to get feedback from the team about what's working and what's not working. So, I just want to point that out, that, this is, you don't have to overcomplicate this. Like, just do what Kristy just said. Have the meeting, invite your boss, and present an account, and all sorts of great stuff happens as a result. So tell us how you select the accounts you're going to do. Is it the ones that are most on fire, or is it the ones with the biggest opportunities? Is it, how do you decide that?
Yeah, so I selected 4 accounts to start with. The one I did first is an account that I still have a lot of ownership of, so I was comfortable doing the account plan myself and could step into that seat and show my team what this looked like, and sort of be the guinea pig for it, I suppose. And it was also an account that had a gigantic renewal coming up. So it was a really opportune time to bring it forward and give everybody an update on where we were with, our delivery of our services to the client, and how things were looking going into the renewal discussion, and the challenges and concerns I had going into that discussion. And an immediate action that came out of it was that our president, made outreach to people in his network within that client who could influence the renewal, which I think was really valuable.
Okay, so just like, boom, here we go. And then what about the other 3? How'd you pick those?
Yeah, good question. So the second client was a client we were preparing for our annual in-person meeting with. So I'm based in Winnipeg, Canada. My team's in Winnipeg, Canada, but the vast majority of our clients are in the US. And this client's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we were going to be traveling there for a full day meeting to review, previous year successes, plan for the next year, present our new ideas. And then now we are in the process of putting together a new budget for the coming year. So it, again, seemed like a really opportune time to bring the wider team into what we were focusing on with that client, what was sort of happening inside of their ecosystems, what we were concerned about, what the results were looking like, and how that was going to inform what we were bringing to the meeting to present to that client.
Okay, nice. Now, the question I've got for you here. One of the things that I know happens with these, account reviews is they can very quickly devolve into pipeline reviews, where all we're doing is talking about what's the open opportunity, when's it going to close, what's the likelihood, what are the next steps, et cetera, which is all valuable stuff. But if we're not careful, these meetings, they're no longer strategic discussions about the customer. They're no longer customer centric. They immediately switch into like, okay, what are we going to get out of this, and by when, and this kind of thing. Well, what walls do we need to break down in order to get the revenue? How have you made sure that you're keeping this time for actual discussion about the customer?
Yeah, and what you mentioned, that format of it just becoming a pipeline meeting, that is entirely what it was previously, when we were kind of jumping around between clients. And we would mention one client, and then it would be like, oh, I didn't realize we had a meeting with them about that opportunity. Where's that at? And exactly what you described. So the shift into it being not that kind of jump around nature, but coming with a particular client to discuss, And it's very much a meeting that account management owns now. Whereas before it felt like more of a looser format where we were just sort of discussing as a group what was going on in our existing clients. So now it's, we're here to present to you about this client and we want your discussion, we want your input, we want to know your concerns. We're here for a two-way dialogue, but we took a lot more ownership over what the content of the meeting was. And I think that's helped. We are 2 meetings in, got another one next week. So
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing how these evolve and develop. Well, so you have really been changing Worker BTV's approach to managing accounts, and you talked about QBRs. You talked about totally reshaping that, making them more customer centric, making them more question based. You talked about reframing the account reviews and building account plans into that when we're talking to folks. What do you see as the next things that you want to tackle?
Ooh, good question. That challenge I have right now of my team being spread across a lot of disciplines and wearing a lot of hats, that is what's, burning for me right now. And that's what I'm talking to my leader about, of how can we add resource or change what we're doing in order to allow the account management team to have more time to focus on strategic account growth and even the project management side of their role, and not constantly be kind of pulled into this ticketing function that they're doing right now. And then I think like the segmenting work that we're doing needs to continue and needs to be continue to be refined and improved because I think it's really important. And yeah, those are 2 things that are really top of mind for me right now.
Awesome. It's making me think we need to do a segmentation program inside of AMplify. Yeah, I think we need to do that. People need that. It's come up enough times that I think this would be worthwhile. So so thanks for sharing all this stuff. You have really invested in yourself and in your learning, and I can see the results that you're getting from it. When you think about where you were, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when you think about different account managers who are just starting out right now, what's one belief or one practice that you think more account managers should be doing, but they aren't? Like, if you could either wind back the clock, or if you could give yourself advice, 5 years ago, or give advice to someone who's just starting out now about a belief or a practice, what would it be?
The concept that account management, your main job is to keep your client and to grow your client, and to sort of always keep that in the front of your mind when you're approaching your work and prioritizing your tasks and deciding what to do with your day. That's clarity I never had, 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was so easy to be running around, meeting whatever project need was popping up. And it was much harder to focus and prioritize and spend my time the way I should be spending my time when I didn't have that in the front of my mind and I didn't have that clarity. That's what my job was.
Well said. I like it. Yeah. Everyone overcomplicates things and they think that their job is customer happiness, project management, internal coordination, briefing the product team, hanging out with marketing, this, that, or the other. None of that matters unless you are keeping your customer and growing your customer. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Well, hey, Kristy Devantier, thank you so much for joining us on Account Management Secrets. Really fun to see your evolution. Thanks for being a founding member of AMplify, and can't wait to see where all this stuff goes next.
Thanks, Alex. This was awesome.